All right, yay! Well,
You
everyone, thank you for joining. If you are online, then we are on video so that you can see Val and myself. My name is Adrienne Turner, even though the screen says Holly Parker. That's the way the system is set up. And we have Val Neighbors joining us today, who is one of the most well-known and largest personalities on the professional mentoring and coaching circuit. She's a speaker, a TV personality, sales strategist, and over the last few days, I've just gotten to know her as a just wonderful person. So thank you, Val, for being with us today.
Thanks, Adrienne, for having me. It's my pleasure.
Great. I want to just set the stage of how this works today. If you have questions, please type them into the chat box. We want to make this very interactive so that we can get to your questions and the challenges that you might be facing through networking. So we are just going to begin by simply talking about what is purposeful networking. So Val, would you share with us what's meant by that?
Sure, absolutely. Adrienne and I were talking the other night, and I said literally, each and every single one of us could spend 7 days a week, morning, afternoon, evening, out at some sort of a networking event. And I also followed that up by saying everything we do or everything we should be doing should involve some form of networking, whether you're, at the gas station, pumping gas, if you're in PA, if you're in New Jersey like me. We don't have to do that. We get to stay in our car. Or if you're in line at Wawa or the grocery store, usually you're talking to somebody when you're out and about. So purposeful networking is really about figuring out who do I want to go for? So who am I looking for by way of an ideal client and or strategic partnerships? So once you have an idea of who those two individuals are, then you need to find out which networking events should I invest my time and my energy and my resources into to get to those people. So that's just the very tip of the iceberg. Once you decide which networking events you want to attend based on who can help you, and just as important, if not more important, who you can help in return, then once you arrive at those events, it's really going to be about identifying no more than three. I like to keep it simple, that whole kiss method, keep it simple, stupid. No more than three people should you be going to connect with. And by connect with, I don't mean just hand your business card to when you get their business card and you say, hey, nice to meet you, bye-bye. I mean, really have a conversation, a meaningful, a purposeful conversation with that individual to determine more about them, and not just professionally, because we do business with people that we know, like, and trust. So you've got to tap into the personal side. But who do you connect with from a business standpoint and, more importantly, in a personal standpoint? So that's when I say purposeful networking, you have to lay down the foundation of where am I going to invest my time first and foremost based on my ideal clients and or my strategic partners.
Thank you, Val. Another thing that we've been kind of taught over the years is the need to have that 30-second pitch. And so you walk someone and in 30 seconds, we're supposed to tell them everything that they should know about us to make them want to connect with us. Can you share your thoughts on the 30-second pitch and maybe a better way to start a conversation?
So I have to take my glasses off for this one because now I'm going to get serious, if you can believe that one. Anyway, I absolutely, positively do not like the word pitch at all. You are not going in to sell somebody something in 30 or 60 or 90 seconds. And actually, you shouldn't go into any, even a sales meeting or sales presentation necessarily going in to sell them per se. I just think pitch is not a very kind word. So I actually call it a 30 or 60-second intro, because the first thing that you're selling is yourself. Nobody really cares what you do. If you're selling pencils, if you're selling t-shirts, if you're selling healthcare services, if you're selling coaching services, if you're selling your nonprofit fundraising, whatever it might be. Nobody really cares what you do. They care more about who you are and can they connect with you. So when somebody stands up, and I love going to networking events, especially the ones where people do get to stand up and give their 30 or 60-second intros. I find it very entertaining for me personally. But when you stand up to give a 30 or 60-second intro, I challenge you to not say anything about your business and instead stand up and say, hi, I'm Val Neighbors, I'm with XYZ company, and I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here. I'm going to be that fish that swims upstream while everybody else is swimming downstream. So I'm going to tell you the most interesting thing about me personally, and then go in and drop something about them. So for me, I might say, hey, I'm Val Neighbors. I'm a professional speaker. I'm an author. I'm an empowerment mentor, and I'm an emotional intelligence guru. And something interesting that I'm going to tell you about today, because you really don't care what I do, you're more interested in who I am. And I'm a 3-time #1 best-selling author on Amazon. I'm really an introvert by nature, and I've got 2 amazing boys who occupy probably 3/4, if not more, of my world. Hi, I'm Val Neighbors. If you want to learn more, come see me later. And that's it. You have got to do something that makes you real, makes you a person, makes you relatable, and makes you interesting, because you're not boring. None of us are boring. So when I use something like that or a variation of it, I will tell you more people end up coming to me afterwards and they say, I'm confused. What do you do? And I said, great, I'm glad I've confused you. Right. Now let's clear it up. Let me not talk about me first. Let me hear a little bit more about you. So anytime you can be in a situation where you also flip the focus from you back onto the person that you're engaging with, first of all, if you're an introvert or you have introvert tendencies, that's going to be a very comfortable position for you, because now you've deflected the focus off of you and you've put it back on that individual. That's first. Second, you've now made that other person feel way more important, because you're not trying to hog the time to share the me, I, what I want. You have flipped it onto them, and you're showing a genuine interest in who they are and wanting to get to know them first. Don't call it a pitch. Call it a 30 or 60-second intro. And I dare you to come up with a list of 10 things that makes you interesting and weave them into your intros and test them out. Some are going to be more successful than others. You just have to test them out.
That is great. Another thing that I've heard suggested as well, and this is exactly what you're saying, find a different way to describe what you do. So as a career coach, I would say I help people have amazing careers. Instead of just saying I'm a career coach, so kind of describe what you do, but the way that you do it versus the particular position.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really good point, Adrienne. And for somebody like yourself, you could easily say something along the lines of, I help people fall back in love with their job again. Or I help people fall back in love with their career. And that's it. You're planting that seed, but yet you're giving a little bit of an intrigue. So somebody in the audience who may not be feeling so mojo-ish about their position, whether they're their own business owner or they're looking to make a transition from one position to another, from one company to another, they're in your audience and now they're like, she can help me she can show me or help me fall back in love with what I'm doing. This is interesting. I wonder how. How's going to be the first thing that comes to their mind.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to add that the other thing is there are different types of, personalities that we all have. And you started to say that some people might be an introvert. Can you share how they might be able to be comfortable in a setting where they're really not that outgoing? I think you began to start by saying do things to deflect the attention off of you. That's a really good thing to do in an interview. If you get the interviewer to talk about themselves, they feel really good about the interview. And they think that you're a great candidate, but they spend a lot of time talking about themselves.
Yeah, so here's the thing about introverts. There's first of all a huge myth and a misconception out there that all introverts are antisocial, they're hermits, they don't like people, they don't do well in social settings, and that simply is absolutely not the case. It's very much a myth and it's very false. There is no one size fits all introvert, and the true meaning and definition of an introvert is really somebody who gets their energy by being alone. So going into a networking situation is very draining for us, those of us who have those strong introvert tendencies. Um, I was in an all-day emotional intelligence training yesterday, and it was very draining for me. So last night, I think I fell asleep by 8:30. And, the first part of today, knowing that I was going to be doing this webinar, I didn't do a whole lot of speaking to other people. I did more electronic emails, data entry, those types of things. So when, an introvert is never going to be 100% comfortable going into a networking situation. So I don't want to blow smoke and say, yes, you will. It's more about embracing the fact that it's not going to be a very comfortable place for you. So how can I, as that introvert, minimize the uncomfortable feeling that I'm going to have? So the first thing is, you know, hopefully hopefully you're in a situation where you know at least one other person who is attending that networking event. And it doesn't matter if they're another introvert or if they're an extrovert. There's power in numbers. So the two of you going in together, or meeting there and seeing each other across the room will be something that you can use to your advantage. Because whether it's another introvert or it's an extrovert, there's a good chance that that person may know somebody else in the room and can make an introduction so you can at least start the conversation. So that's the first thing. The second thing, if you don't know somebody else who's at the event and you go into the room, it's okay for you to, after you sign in and you get your name tag and whatever the process is, it's okay for you to stand off to the side and observe, because introverts are very, very good observers. So it's your time to step back, look at the room, look at the individuals that are in the room, and find another introvert who's probably hanging off to the side just like yourself. That's your opportunity to go and engage with somebody who is going to be more on your level. And you're not going to have to worry about them completely dominating the conversation and exhausting you before the official networking has begun. So look for that other introvert buddy, as I call it. Then the next thing that I suggest is coming up with a list of, 5, 10, 15 conversation starters. I think at 1 o'clock, as a matter of fact, my video, I'm going to be doing a weekly video on everything there is to do with speaking, networking, selling in business as an introvert, as an extroverted introvert, because that's what I am. My video is going to be released, and it's the first in a series of conversation starters, because again, it's not comfortable for us to make that small chit chat. It's draining. And what do I say to somebody when I go up to them and meet them for the first time? Hi, my name is Val Neighbors. I'm a professional speaker, author, this, that, the other thing. What do you do? That's so, again, that's the easy way out, and it's boring, and we're not boring. It's okay to use that some of the times, but you want to find a way to ask some questions that really opens up the dialogue. So again, if you're an introvert, you're meeting someone, you're asking the question, you're then letting that person speak, and the focus is off of you, so you're not the one that is sitting there spending the whole time on the firing line answering question after question after question. Because like I said, before you even move off that first person, you're going to be utterly exhausted.
Thank you. Those are really great tips. Another thing that I personally use as a conversation starter is around the event. So I was planning to attend the Small Business Expo today. But had I attended, I would have met someone and said, hi, I'm here today because I'm looking for people to be an exhibitor at the nonprofit conference that we're having coming up. So I'm looking to meet with this person or that person. What's your purpose here today? Like something just sharing why you're there can get people started. So first of all, they know what your intents are, and even if they don't match, at least you had a conversation, and they just might know somebody like, hi, I know John, and he does a lot of exhibits or something like that, and it starts a relationship in that setting. Okay. Well, I want to let everyone know that's on the line that you can feel free to chat your comments or particular questions. Val, another thing about networking that is sometimes challenging for individuals is, again, talking about who they are. So what would you say to individuals? Now you've introduced yourself. What might be some other ways that they can engage with individuals at a networking event?
It really goes back to having, having an arsenal of questions. And when I say an arsenal of questions, I don't mean put somebody on, make somebody feel like they are on a firing line and you're just like, shoo, 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 like shooting them, firing them at them. And not everybody is going to start off being able to very conversational and have a nice flow of asking questions of someone and then maybe giving a little bit of input and then asking another question and giving input. I think a lot of people get tripped up in conversations. So, you might start off by saying your name, oh, how did you hear about this event? What brought you here today? What's your purpose? Yes. Who are you looking for? These are all the types of questions. And then you might say, are you from the area? Do you have children? Are you, in a relationship or married? How long have you been in your position? What do you like about it? What did you do before? Yeah. The whole goal of meeting somebody and connecting with them should be to find out, do we have some commonality? Do we have some common ground that you can kind of plant your stake in and use that as the foundation to continue to build the relationship? So it's asking those questions and then, listening. God gave us, one mouth and two ears for a reason. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we are supposed to talk. So when somebody is answering whatever the question is that you have, that you just asked, then you want to make sure you're listening to what their response is. Now, we all know, because I'm sure it happened to every single one of us, we meet someone who just doesn't zip their lip. And they go, and they go, and they go. And you're thinking to yourself, how in the love of God am I going to get away from this person? Because A, you're exhausted. B, you want to meet other people. And C, maybe you've identified that this person really isn't someone that you want to connect with. You're just not feeling it. They're not your cup of tea. Because here's a news flash, folks. Not everybody's going to like us. No matter how much we try, not everybody's going to like us. And that's okay. That's okay. So this is where emotional intelligence comes into play. And for women, we're so sensitive and not wanting to hurt anybody else's feelings that we don't always excel in this area. If I'm in a situation where somebody is dominating the conversation and I am totally not interested, or I know this is not somebody that I would ever want to do business with, I politely interrupt them and I say, it was very nice meeting you. I apologize for interrupting you. I see somebody else that I would like to go talk to. Do you have a card? I'd love to connect with you later on, maybe on LinkedIn. Default to social media somehow, because then it's not like you're saying, I'm going to sit down and have a cup of tea or coffee with you. You're not promising lunch. You're not promising you're going to send them an email or pick up the phone and call. Just, hey, do you have a card? I'll connect with you on LinkedIn at some point later. Don't feel sorry. Don't feel bad for interrupting the conversation, because you are there for a purpose. Purposeful networking. You're there for a reason. So you cannot be derailed from what your goal and your purpose is.
And thank you, Val, for sharing that, because you brought up LinkedIn, and I've got about 6 minutes left, and I wanted to ask about online networking, of course, versus offline. Sometimes that's challenging for individuals, approaching someone, sending someone a LinkedIn request. I always tell individuals you should personalize it so that, individuals might understand just a little bit about why you might want to connect with them. Do you have any tips about online networking?
I do. I mean, I'm a huge fan of social media. I definitely do more on Facebook than I do on LinkedIn. Although with me, how now really working the YouTube and incorporating that across the other platforms, I'm going to be balancing LinkedIn out a little bit more because I've had more people reach out to me on LinkedIn recently for speaking opportunities. So of all, if you don't have a professional profile picture, you absolutely must have a professional profile picture. Not one of you in a bikini, doing shots down in, Rio de Janeiro, partying up. Not one of that gray avatar person that, is not who you are. And I don't mean you need to go out and spend $600 on a professional shot. Have someone take a picture of you where you're dressed nicely and then use that as your profile picture because you want to be approachable. Even on social media, you need to be approachable. Secondly, make sure that your profile is complete. And one of the biggest things for me that wigs me out is when people use lowercase letters. So they'll say, my, title, executive director of whatever, and the E and the D and the first letter of that whatever title are lowercase when they should be capitalized. I'm like, yee. So just a couple of like housekeeping things first and foremost. Secondly, keep your connections open. Don't hide who you're connected to because I tell people all the time, hey, you know what? Connect with me on LinkedIn. Look through my connections. I probably have about 3,500, or so. I don't know off the top of my head, 3,500, 4,000 people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn. Look through my connections. See if there's anybody that you'd like me to introduce you to. Send me an email. Let me know who those folks are, and I'll be glad to make a warm introduction for you. I may not know that person, but if they see that I'm already in their sphere of influence, in their circle, and I make that introduction, they're automatically going to be like, oh, wow, I don't even really know her, but she, is thinking of me enough to make this introduction to this other person. They don't really care how it came about. It's just happening. If you don't see, which I find it hard to believe, but if you don't see that you're connected to somebody else who's connected to the person that you want to get to, you have every right, if you will, to go and send that person a request to connect. However, like you said, Adrian, when you send it, don't just do that request to connect and send it off. I believe on our phones, that's the only option on most electronic phones, right, is to just request to connect without a message. So if it's somebody that you want to get to, do it from a computer and then go and request to connect. And then you usually have to select how you're connected to them or how you know them. And I actually just select worked with them at, and I put my current, like what I'm doing currently. Then below, I send them an email. Hi, Adrian. I noticed that we, have 45 mutual connections. I also noticed that we're in 2 of the same groups together here on LinkedIn. I'm really interested in learning more about what you do as a career coach. Love to connect with you further. Look forward to getting to know you better. Have a great day, Val Neighbors. Something along those lines. You're limited in the characters that you can put in that initial connection request. And then once that person accepts, then you need to go back again from your computer and thank them for connecting and say, hey, I'd love to set up a 15-minute phone call so I can learn more about what what you do and who you serve. Are you available next Tuesday or Thursday? And then set up the appointment, hop on the phone. 15, 20 minutes at first is all you need to do. Now, I like meeting people in person. However, it doesn't always make sense to meet somebody in person if they're an hour and a half away and you're not really sure of what the synergy is going to be between the 2 of you. So definitely setting up a phone conversation or a Skype call even is going to be much better than spending the time to drive somewhere and meet the person and then there potentially not be anything for the 2 of you to do together.
Right. we have to keep in mind that our purpose in these initial contacts is just to see if there is a connection there that we can support each other, have a mutually beneficial relationship. When you're connecting with individuals and you show how you can be of value to them, that makes you a person that they really want to engage with more. So I appreciate you sharing that. And then I did want to add one other thing when you were talking about sending a message and then sending another one right after when they accept. So many people don't do that. They don't send the thank you back. And when I get an invitation to connect, I do check to see, like who we have in common and what the connection might be, even if they don't have a personal note. But after I accept their connection, I will send a message and say, thank you for inviting me to connect with you. I value my connection, and I'd love to learn more about what you do and maybe ways I can support you. If they don't respond to that email, I disconnect from them, because I think maybe that's someone, who wants to just scan through my list of people, and I've had that happen before.
Yeah,
so
it does.
Even your online connections, you want to protect them. Your connections want to know that you're protecting them, and you can demonstrate value, as you mentioned, through the connections, warm introductions. I'm so glad you shared that. So we're at 12:31, and I'm going to try to open up the phone lines, okay, to see if I could do that. So if anyone has questions, they can ask their question. But I also want to let individuals know that on next Thursday, there will be another webinar on goal setting. So understanding why it's important to set goals. There's statistics that say if you set goals, write them down, first of all, you're 42% more likely to achieve them. And if you share them with someone else, you're 78%. That percentage increases to 78%. So we're going to talk about goal setting. I did a seminar a couple of weeks ago, and I had people write down goals. And it was the first time that people said that they wrote down goals. Everybody has what they call these sticky notes in their brain. We got to get those sticky notes from the brain onto paper. So Val, before we go to Q&A, please share how people can connect with you and what you have going on next.
Sure. So my website is not updated. I actually have I'm actually, Adrian, we talked about this the other night. I've been waiting for my web person to update my website for quite some time now. But anyway, the best way to connect with me, if you're someone who is more comfortable just sticking to LinkedIn, everything on my social media platform is under Val Neighbors. So on LinkedIn, I'm under Val Neighbors. On Twitter, I'm at Val Neighbors. On Facebook, I'm Val Neighbors. I have a personal page and a business page. I use my personal page more than my business.
That's so fantastic. And also, Val will be our keynote speaker at the TCN meeting next month. I forget the date, but it's the third Tuesday in April. So we're super excited that she'll be addressing the entire TCN organization and sharing some of her great wisdom on, how to be fantastic in selling yourself and building relationships. And we look forward to that presentation. And Val, thank you so much for joining us today. It was fun. You gave some terrific advice. We know we need to have those conversation starters. And if we don't, build a connection with someone, don't be afraid to just give them your card and walk away.
Politely, of course. But yes, that's true. Don't feel bad for walking away.
All right. Thank you so much, Val. Have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next month. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Adrian. Have a great day. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.